Senate Bill 722 by Senator Bates and others, enact relating to sex offenders.
Mr. Wagner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I'm proud to present SB 722 on behalf of Senator Bates. This authorizes a felony penalty of up to 3 years for child molesters and rapists who willfully remove or disable a GPS tracking device. Amendments taken in assembly of probes remove the rebuttable presumption of the person intended to evade supervision. So SB 722 applies only to dangerous supervised persons as distinguished from other supervised persons who, without their intent, nevertheless allow or cause their GPS to fail. This is prompted by a recent killing spree in Orange County that left 4 innocent women dead. The murders were later linked to 2 high-risk convicted sex offenders who at the time were on but had removed their GPS ankle bracelets. SB 722 deliberately focuses on the most serious, heinous sex crimes by limiting its application to the offenses deemed most egregious by the legislature when it approved the one-strike rape law. The premise behind the one-strike rape law is that one victim is enough. This will help enforce that. I urge an aye vote.
Ms. Kim, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker and members, I rise today in support of SB 722. This bill protects the public from the worst criminals on our streets. Orange County lost 4 innocent lives last fall, and it is imperative that we take action now to prevent future murders. The circumstances of some sex offenses are so aggravated that the state imposes a life sentence to avoid the potential of another victim. When a rapist or child molester cuts off his or her GPS device and evades the law, the state has been put on notice that others are at great risk, but justice is hardly served. Current law merely gives a slap on the wrist and holds the offender in county jail for less than 90 days. We need to send a message to these heinous criminals that we are serious about this crime. SB 722 is very much needed because in the cases of Orange County, the state simply waited for another victim, and enough is enough. As a member of the Orange County delegation, I would like to thank Senator Bates for bringing this important issue up, and I urge my colleagues to vote aye on this bill.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Wagner, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I urge an aye vote. Thank you.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 67, noes 1. The measure passes. File item 209, SB 147. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 147 by Senator Hernandez, enact relating to Medi-Cal.
Assemblymember Wood, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I'm proud to present SB 147 on behalf of Senator Hernandez. SB 147 would establish a pilot program that would change the way Medi-Cal pays federally qualified health centers. In participating counties, this bill would replace the existing per-visit Medi-Cal payment methodology with a capitated system through Medi-Cal managed care plans using the alternative payment methodology option authorized under federal law. The capitated payment would provide greater flexibility in healthcare delivery for FQHCs by enabling the FQHC to provide different types of healthcare services without having to meet the per-visit billing requirement to generate Medi-Cal revenue. This bill is sponsored by the California Primary Care Association, California Association of Public Hospitals, Health Systems, and LA Care Health Plan. SB 147 has enjoyed a unanimous support throughout the legislative process. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 65, no 0. The measure passes. File item 210, SB 19. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 19 by Senator Wilk and others, enact relating to resuscitative measures.
Mr. Dababne, you may open.
Mr. Speaker and members, SB 19 establishes the California Pulse E-Registry Pilot Act. The establishment of the pilot project will allow for authorized healthcare providers to submit and access the pulse information in a secure and timely manner. In 2008, AB 3000 by then Assemblymember Wolk created the California Physician's Order for Life-Sustaining Treatment, otherwise known as PULSE form, a standardized form signed by a physician that ensures a patient's wishes for treatment in their last years are honored regarding medical care. The PULSE form, however, is currently only available as a paper document, which is frequently lost and not easily transmitted between healthcare settings in an emergency. This often results in unwanted, aggressive, and costly care. Last year, the California Healthcare Foundation conducted a study on the establishment of a PULSE registry in California and found that it would be feasible. This pilot will further inform how best to establish this registry as innovation and technology continues to advance rapidly in the field of electronic health record management. SB 19 has received bipartisan support, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote today.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 55, noes 8. The measure passes. Passing and retaining file items 211 through 213. I'm going to take up file item 214, SB 695. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 695 by Senator De Leon and others, enacting the school curriculum.
Mr. Chavez, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm pleased to present SB 695, jointly authored by President Pro Tem Kevin De Leon and Senator Jackson. This bill represents the next step in the fight to change behavior towards women, particularly among young men. I first got involved in this in 1994 when I was an IG inspector, and I have been involved in this in my district in talking to young men on the appropriate way to date and how you see friendships among women. Members, sadly, too many young men learned from cousins, uncles, or even possibly their fathers that it's okay to abuse women. This is something that we have to change within our culture, and this bill, SB 695, addresses this. SB 695 requires a health education class needed for graduation to include information about yes means yes, the affirmative consent standard. It also requires the Instructional Quality Commission to include information on sexual harassment and violence at its next revision of the health framework as specified. Members, I ask for your aye vote for this very important bill that's dealing with a cultural issue that we need to change.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 68, noes 0. The measure passes. We're going to pass and retain file item 215. Moving now to file item 216, SB 646. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 646 by Senator Jackson, enact relating to family support.
Mr. Stone, you may present.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Senator Jackson's SB 646 aligns California family and child support laws with federal and international laws. It ensures that we will continue to bring down the $640 million that we typically get to implement state and international or federal and international child and family support laws. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further discussion, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 67, no 0. Measure passes. We're going to pass and retain file item 217. At this time, we're going to go through the items that we had passed temporarily, starting first with file item 79 for purposes of amendments. SB 404, the clerk will read.
Senate Bill 404 with amendments by Assemblymember Gomez.
Mr. Gomez, you're recognized.
Members, amendments at the desk insert intent language stating that the legislature's intent to find a durable solution to address the inequity and ineffectiveness of the current penalty assessment structure for traffic fines. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are made. The bill is out to file and back, will be printed and be brought back on file. And at this time, I'd like to re-refer back to motions and resolutions to Mr. Holden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Assembly Rule 97, I request unanimous consent to re-refer file item 79 SB 404 De Leon to the Rules Committee.
Without objection, that request is granted. We're going to go now back to file item 96 for purposes of amendments, SB 383. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 383 with amendments by Assemblymember Bonta.
Mr. Bonta, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. SB 383 is the result of a productive collaboration between the plaintiff's bar, the defense bar, and the California Judges Association to improve California's demurrer process. The amendments limit the number of post-demurrer amendments to 3 unless additional facts are offered. The amendments also include other technical amendments. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on the amendments.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, without objection. Oh, Ms. Waldron.
We support those amendments.
Okay. Without objection, we can take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print and back on file. Going now to file item 121, SB 111. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 111 by Senator Fuller and others enacting the school facilities.
Mr. Lackey, you're recognized.
Yeah, Speaker and members, it's my pleasure to present Senate Bill 111 on behalf of Senator Fuller. This bill is important for military families across California. It will help bring critical funding for desperately needed school facility improvements on campuses near or on military bases or installations. These schools primarily serve students of service members. Following an assessment by the Department of Defense on the condition of public schools near these bases, Congress allocated $770 million to repair and renovate the facilities in the worst condition. 11 California schools are currently eligible to receive approximately $240 million of this funding. However, in order to access it, eligible schools are required to provide a 20% match. Due to fiscal challenges, these schools need assistance with that match requirement. Low property tax revenues and the constant relocation of family members means that these schools cannot afford that 20% match. Senate Bill 111 will declare the legislature's intent to meet the matching share requirements of school construction grant programs by directing the Department of Finance to explore funding options, including low-interest loans through the iBank. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 74, no 0. The measure passes. We're going to now go to file item 162, SB 296. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 296 by Senator Cannella and actually the Medi-Cal.
Dr. Wood, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. It's an honor to present SB 296, Mr. Cannella. Counties and providers of specialty mental health services estimates that over 40 cents out of every dollar spent on services will go towards a menial task of documenting paperwork services to ensure that it meets billing standards. A national expert reviewer, has studied the way California counties documented the paperwork task and noted that it took 20 minutes of documentation to prepare those progress notes for a single session of psychotherapy as compared to an estimated 5 minutes of paperwork as documented in other states. The expert reviewer had studied the state guidelines and noted the findings were not significantly different from other states. He found that counties had added other documentation requirements based on fears of state interpretations of the guidelines in audits, which might result in services being disallowed if the additional documentation were not included. SB 296 will solve this problem by immediately prohibiting the Department of Health Care Services from making audit disallowances that go beyond the regulations or federal requirements unless clearly spelled out as required by the federal government. To address this problem, the bill will provide counties with a level of assurance that should lead other counties to eliminate duplicative requirements that were added based on audit fears. This bill was amended in Assembly Appropriations to address cost issues from the Department of Finance and no longer requires the Department of Health Care Services to develop a single set of documentation requirements for the provision of specialty mental health services. Thank you for the opportunity to present this on behalf of Senator Cannella, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tie the votes. Ayes 72, no 0. The measure passes. We're going to go now to file item 173, SB 185. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 185 by Senator De Leon and others, enacting into public retirement systems.
Mr. Bonta, you may present.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. SB 185 by Senator De Leon directs the two state pension funds, CalPERS and CalSTRS, to divest their thermal coal holdings consistent with their fiduciary responsibilities under law. SB 185 aligns our investments policies with our values. Since 2007, the state of California has prohibited our utilities from investing in new coal power in order to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Coal combustion for energy generation is the leading cause of global climate change. According to the United States Energy Information Service, coal plants are the nation's top source of carbon dioxide emissions, the primary cause of global warming. A typical coal plant generates 3.5 million tons of CO2 per year. Burning coal is also a leading cause of smog, acid rain, and toxic air pollution. Coal divestiture has been undertaken by other funds, such as the Stanford University Endowment, Yale University, and the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. According to CalPERS, its portfolios currently contain approximately 30 coal mining producing companies valued at $167 million. California, and by the way, CalPERS is the nation's largest public pension fund, as we all know, with assets totaling $295 billion as of September 30th, 2014. California is a world leader in the fight against climate change. Certainly, we can find more sustainable and profitable investments for our public pension funds that better suit our values. SB 185 recognizes what analysts are saying. Coal has become a bad investment. Members, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Gallagher, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, members, I rise in opposition to this measure. And the biggest reason is we need to be concerned about the long-term sustainability of CalPERS and our pension programs. Just this year, it was revealed that CalPERS did a 2.4% return on its investment when we're supposed to be getting 7.5%. As you all know, in 2009, we lost 28% in the market. This makes our pension plans in this state very unsustainable in the long term. What we need to be concerned about in terms of making investment plans, and really that's not our duty, it's the CalPERS board's duty. We have no constitutional authority over how CalPERS makes its investments, so that should be noted. But we need to make those decisions based on good, sound financial decisions, not based on emotionalism. Now, we've all been working to reduce emissions in the state. It's a laudable goal. We've been working through those issues. However, we shouldn't let that color what investment decisions should be made. And in fact, coal, here's the facts. When it comes to coal, regulated emissions from coal-based electricity have decreased overall by 40% since the 1970s, while coal use has tripled in the same time period. There's improvements being made in coal that make it a cleaner burning, and we've reduced emissions from that standpoint. CalPERS has invested $1 billion in green energy, and they lost most of that investment. That's not a good thing for us. That's not making good financial decisions. We need to make sure that we're making the best decisions that will provide for the overall sustainability of these pension plans. Let's not attempt to micromanage and stop the state's public pension boards from making new investments or renewing existing investments of public employee retirement funds in the most financially prudent way. Thank you, members, and I ask for your opposition to this measure.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Bonta, you may close.
Thank you to our colleague for his comments. Members, we as legislators sitting in this body have a responsibility to our districts and to our constituents to take necessary steps to aggressively address climate change in this state and in this world. And this is an important step through this bill. We are on the leading edge here in California in the fight against climate change. This is another way that we will continue to have that leading role. And I just want to point out in response to the comments that were just made, that this bill requires divestiture from thermal coal holdings consistent with the CalPERS and CalSTRS boards' fiduciary responsibilities under the law. So it doesn't supplant or displace or undercut their fiduciary roles to promote prudent investments in the funds. If the divestiture of coal is inconsistent with the board's fiduciary responsibilities, they are not compelled to divest of coal. However, since coal is in fact a bad investment, that conflict will not arise as best we can tell. But they do have, we do not undercut or displace or supplant their fiduciary responsibilities. Members, this is a very important bill in the fight against climate change. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 43, noes 27. Measure passes. Moving now to file item 174, SB 260. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 260 by Senator Monning, enacting into Medi-Cal.
Mr. Bonta, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Senate Bill 260 requires that all county organized health system plans, or COES, be licensed by the Department of Managed Health Care under the Knox-Keene Act to ensure that all Medi-Cal plans are under a single standard of regulation, and those Medi-Cal beneficiaries are afforded with all the same consumer protections that come with licensure. Amendments taken in the Assembly Health Committee delay the bill's implementation to give COES plans ample time to comply with licensure. COES plans would be made whole, as the costs for licensure are reimbursable. It is critical that the 2 million people that receive Medi-Cal through COES plans are afforded the same protections. For example, independent medical reviews, the HMO helpline, and external reviews are only accessed through DMHC licensed plans. With licensure, we are also seeking the ability for DMHC to properly track and trend complaints and ensure quality and accessible care that is compliant with our timely access and network adequacy laws. The time has come for COES plans to be licensed like all other Medi-Cal plans in California. Members, this is a very important consumer and patient protection bill. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Williams, you're recognized.
I rise in opposition, strong opposition to this bill. This is an anti-district bill. Most counties that are affected by this, most members that have health systems affected by this bill have concerns. Many members on the floor may be unaware that what a county organized health system is, as most of you are in counties that run Medi-Cal differently than the COES model. I happen to have two in my district. My entire district is 2 county organized health systems, Gold Coast and in Central California, CenCal. These are public, nonprofit health plans with locally appointed boards comprised of providers, locally elected officials, and enrollees. There are a total of 6 plans for 22 counties serving 2 million Medi-Cal enrollees. By all accounts, COES plans have been the gold standard for providing Medi-Cal in the state since we went to managed care in the 90s. Administrative expenses are lower. Provider and enrollee satisfaction is higher. According to DHCS, 7 out of the 10 top-ranked counties for delivery of Medi-Cal are served by a COES. COES systems are held accountable at both the local level and by the Department of Health Care Services. This bill unnecessarily would require these plans to get a Knox-Keene license and subject the systems to regulation at the Department of Managed Health Care. So duplicative regulation on many of the same points. This will cost $4 million, members. $4 million, half of which we will have to reimburse to get the same result, and because one person was denied health care. I do not think that that is a good spending of resources, and particularly when those resources, because these are quasi-public agencies, would be going to public health care for poor people. So that's $4 million that doesn't go to health providing for poor people, that instead goes to bureaucracy and complying with duplicative regulation. I ask for a no vote.
Mr. Sajian, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join my colleague from Santa Barbara in opposing SB 260. I served on the board of County Organized Health System, Sancal Health, for many years, and I know firsthand that their budgets are tight. It has been estimated that the Knox-Keene licensure will cost the system $4 million out of their budgets. This is money that could go towards reimbursing providers or providing care for a patient. Additionally, these plans are already regulated by the Department of Health Care Services through their contracts. I do not think that this added layer of regulation will give patients access to the better care. I respectfully ask for your no vote.
Mr. Wagner, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. The fact is I rise to join my colleagues from Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo in opposition. Orange County finds itself in the same boat that their counties do, and we oppose for much the same reasons. It makes sense to have Knox-Keene licensure for some of the providers, as has been historically the case, and not others, because quite frankly, as has been explained, the bottom line is these county organizations, like the ones that they spoke of, like we have in Orange County, are not subject to the same market pressures and are not subject to the same considerations that make it important for DHCS to have some licensure because of how they're operated. They don't suffer from the same market shortcomings and the same market pressures, and therefore the same regulations that are frankly somewhat oppressive certainly need not be visited on the county health providers. It will be very, very costly for absolutely no improvement of service. So for that reason, I urge a no vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Bonta, you may close.
Thank you to my colleagues for your comments and your input on this bill. The Knox-Keene Act is well regarded as a strong consumer protection act, and it's important that all Medi-Cal plans and Medi-Cal beneficiaries be governed by that act and with the same consistency and uniformity. So as a statewide policy, which we are responsible to pass, this is a sound policy that will protect patients and consumers in your district. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 Mr. Bonta, what's your pleasure?
Move the call.
Move the call. With that, at this time, we're going to go back to motions and resolutions. I'm going to recognize our majority leader, Mr. Holden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 77 and allow the following bills that have a concur recommendation to be taken up today.
The clerk will read the item number, bill number, and author of these bills.
File Item 32, Assembly Bill 580, O'Donnell. File Item 35, Assembly Bill 849, Bonilla. File Item 36, Assembly Bill 1056, Atkins. File Item 39, Assembly Bill 88, Gomez. File Item 40, Assembly Bill 159, Calderon. File Item 42, Assembly Bill 276, Alejo. File Item 44, Assembly Bill 317, Mainshine. File Item 45, Assembly Bill 413, Chavez. File Item 46, Assembly Bill 437, Atkins. File Item 47, Assembly Bill 515, Eggman. File Item 48, Assembly Bill 549, Levine. File Item 49, Assembly Bill 555, Alejo. File Item 50, Assembly Bill 664, Dodd. File Item 52, Assembly Bill 681, Ting. File Item 53, Assembly Bill 704, Cooley. File Item 54, Assembly Bill 745, Chow. File Item 56, Assembly Bill 965, Eduardo Garcia. File Item 58, Assembly Bill 145, Gomez. File Item 60, Assembly Bill 494, Mainshine. File Item 61, Assembly Bill 599, Bonilla. File Item 62, Assembly Bill 728, Hadley. File Item 64, Assembly Bill 1072, Daly. And File Item 65, Assembly Bill 1081, Quirk.
Without objection, that should be the case. Mr. Holden.
On behalf of the author, I'm giving a one-day notice of intent to remove the following bills from the inactive file. File item A18, Senate Bill 374 Hall.
The clerk will so note.